Good morning, classmates and fellow learners. As we have learned from this class, there have been attacks made against poetry. Poetry was called the mother of lies, provoking of the sinful nature and unproductive. In response to this, writers and poets posed arguments to defend poetry. In 1595, a text described by Alexander Young, 1881, as certainly one of the purest and most brilliant gems in the coronet of English literature was published. Sir Philip Sidney, a courtier to Queen Elizabeth I, wrote The Apology for Poetry, also entitled Defense of Poesy. In his work, which was probably written in 1581, Sir Philip Sidney gave 4 arguments, praises for poetry. Sidney saw it as an obligation to defend poesy. In his introduction, he says, I will give you a nearer example of myself, who, I know not by what mischance, in this my not old years and idless times, having slipped into the title of a poet, am provoked to say something unto you in the defense of that my unelected vocation, which, if I handle with more goodwill than good reasons, bear with me, since the scholar is to be pardoned that followeth the steps of his master. Now let us listen to his arguments.
Thank you very much, Carissa. That is my student, Carissa Intal. She is a junior student taking up education. Thank you for that. So I'd like to start with Sir Philip Sidney with an introduction, because Sir Philip Sidney flourished in a very exciting age, and this is called the English Renaissance. Well, let me start with Renaissance as a whole, as it started in Italy. Now, first of all, the word Renaissance. Renaissance means rebirth, and rebirth in the sense of rebirth in the interest of things and affairs of this world, fostered by a growing knowledge of the ancient civilizations of Greece and Rome. Now, if the Middle Ages, whom we have just left recently, were interested in matters divine, that means out of this world, the Renaissance was interested in matters human, that means in this world. So, welcome to this world, and we have just left the other world of the Middle Ages. Now, hence the term humanism, to indicate concern with the things of this world. This rebirth was marked actually by many discoveries, which actually hastened what is now known as a brave new world. In fact, it started, it seems, in Germany when Gutenberg came up with the art of the printing press with the movable type. And in England, 26 years later, it was introduced by William Caxton. And of course, in 1485, he published Sir Thomas Malory's La Mort d'Arthur. This is the story of Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Now, the Renaissance, a beautiful word, because this was one of the most exciting periods of exploration and discovery. As a matter of fact, at this time, Columbus discovered new lands. Vasco da Gama made the first sea voyage to India. Magellan, of course, circumnavigated the world and discovered, quote unquote, these islands, the Philippines. And Copernicus at this time also published the earth-shaking and earth-moving De Revolutionibus Orbium Coelestium. And of course, you have another name by the name of Paracelsus, who laid the foundations for modern medicine. And of course, this was the time of Michelangelo and Da Vinci, who personified the qualities of the Renaissance man. The Renaissance man who is a painter, a poet, a statesman, a soldier, a sculptor, an engineer, an architect, and so on and so forth. He is the epitome of all these disciplines. Now, this was called the New Learning. And although the New Learning, as it was called, was in full bloom in Italy, because Italy is the place of the birth of the New Learning or the Renaissance, the Renaissance actually took a while, in fact, quite a while, that's an understatement, to reach England, partly because of Henry VIII's quarrel with Rome. We all know the history of Henry VIII's quarrel with Rome. And Rome was in Italy. And therefore, this general English attitude towards Italy and anything Italianate was articulated in the textbook, The Schoolmaster, by Roger Ascham, which was a standard textbook in educational institutions in England. And it seems to say that if you want to follow the path of virtue, you have to shun Italy and Italianate manners. And it was only when scholars like William Grocyn, who went to Florence, and Thomas Linacre, who also studied in Italy, and Jean Colet, John-Colet, who is actually the founder of St. Paul's School, who also went to Italy. When these three returned to England and taught at Oxford and Cambridge, that was the only time that the New Learning entered England. Quite belated, because the New Learning was already in full bloom in Italy. But England shut itself off from the New Learning because of what happened to Henry VIII and his relationship with Rome. But through Oxford and Cambridge, because of their scholars who went to Italy, the New Learning entered England through the back door to join Desiderius Erasmus and, of course, Thomas More, where these true humanists, scholars, and men of the word started to teach the New Learning until it filtered to the populace. Now, it was in this exciting time where Sir Philip Sidney was born. And this is known as the Elizabethan Age. The Elizabethan Age is another name for the English Renaissance. This is the period of rebirth in England. This was the time of William Shakespeare. In other words, they were contemporaries. Sidney, who flourished in 1554 to 1586, quite a short period of years, because he was killed in the Battle of Zutphen, because he was a soldier. He was a Renaissance man. He was a soldier, he was a courtier, he was a statesman, a poet, a governor, a Renaissance man, in fact, and also an exile. Wrote an apology for poetry as a reply to a critic by the name of Stephen Gosson. Stephen Gosson wrote The School of Abuse, and the full title of the work is School of Abuse, containing a pleasant invective against poets, pipers, players, jesters, and such like caterpillars of the Commonwealth. It was a scathing censure of poets like Plato. And therefore, Sir Philip Sidney, came to the rescue of poetry and wrote Apology for Poetry at the same time that he was writing Astrophel and Stella. One of the major contributions to English poetry. Actually, Astrophel and Stella is considered to be the first notable sonnet sequence in English. Stella here is Penelope de Verou, the fiancée of Sir Philip Sidney, who later left him to marry a certain Lord Rich, as in rich.